For me, before we met Errol and Shia, I mean, we got married, 12 years ago?
12 years ago, very young. We
were 19 and 20.
And 20, yeah.
Yeah. And we really loved each other, but we just didn't know how to be a partnership. We didn't know how to relate to each other. We didn't know how to be nice to each other. Like, we loved each other, but we weren't very nice to each other. Well, we were always really hard on ourselves. So super self-critical, and that would always rub off.
We used to get upset with each other for little things, like she forgot to screw the cap on the water all the way through, so I spilled water on my shirt, and I could see the thoughts coming to me like, not again, what have you done?
And we had very high standards for ourselves and very high standards for each other. And our relationship was constantly fighting and then making up. But the making up never led to less fighting. It was like we would fight, we would make up. Then we would fight and then we would make up. But it never created there was no progress to any state of well-being. It was more like a cycle. And then we were things got really bad between us. And we were about to get divorced. Like, there was this whole drama that we created for ourselves. And then we went to a workshop with the Errol and Shia in Hamburg. And that was our first workshop. That was 5.5 years ago. And that was the beginning of a completely new relationship.
I think for me, it was, I just saw a possibility. I was just fascinated by the whole workshop and by the things that I was discovering about myself. I find my well-being in nowadays through listening, through really being there for the person. And in the past I thought I knew how to listen. And even now there is the occasional time that I find that we do this with each other, or we've done this with each other, where we say things but we're not really there, and then we have to ask, what did you say 5 minutes later?
What you say about possibility, that was the key, the first key for me, because when we learned how to relate when we were growing up, it wasn't, we didn't know how to be kind to each other, how to really have a relationship, how to be a partnership. That was the main thing. Like, we really loved each other, but we were always really individuals. And the first time I saw Errol and Shia relate to each other, that was for me a miracle. I'd never ever in my life seen a relationship like that before. I'd never seen a marriage like they had before. And it was even before I even spoke to them. I saw them together. I saw how they related together. And I remember Ariel's was wearing a scarf and it slipped off, and Shia just picked it up without her noticing and put it around her chair, and then Ariel would reach for Shia's foot or something and just brush it lightly, and I was like, that's an amazing, a most incredible marriage that I've ever seen in my life. And I thought, I don't believe I can ever have anything like that, but I want something a little, if I can have a little piece of that, like that, then that's worth everything in the world.
It'd be enough.
And this is our 6th year in Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have together now, this year, this week, is more magical than I could ever imagine that would ever be possible for me in my life. To have this kind of love. To have this kind of partnership.
Yeah.
The possibility that we saw when we first met Errol and Shia, it's coming true. It's really, every workshop we do, I really notice it. Things that we would do that we would upset each other or ourselves. The things still happen sometimes, and we don't get upset with them. And we don't we've become together. And I remember the year before that was when we were going to get divorced. We saw each other for half a day on Thursday. That was our scheduled time together, And we just couldn't really spend long amounts of time together. Like it just wasn't...
At some stage, it was like we were spending time together because we had to almost.
Yeah.
Not because we wanted to.
Because we were married and you should spend time
should.
together.
Yeah, you should spend some hours together.
I think also one of the main things that shift, like in all this thing of partnership, is that Artur is now my best friend.
Yeah.
And I never could say
We
that
never
before.
saw that as a possibility before. You know, we thought, and we had different friends. You know, we never had friends in common.
Yeah.
That's great.
So yeah.
Cool.
For more information about the Canes, their books and seminars, and the Premium Excellence Club, go to transformationmadeeasy.com.